As we get into our Thursday again, this was always kind of advertised as the transition day across mid-Missouri, and it's going to be trying to move in some of that cooler air. I think we're kind of locked in the 40s, what we're waking up to, a lot of us, but we're also tracking some light showers here as we get into the later morning and early afternoon hours. That's going to be our best chance at maybe utilizing that umbrella. As we get into this evening, though, we got to watch that. It may swipe some of our northern counties with a shot at a rain and snow mix. I don't expect it to add up to a whole lot here. As you get out the door in places like Macon back toward Moberly, that's about as far south as I expect that. Until we get into Friday morning, this one looks like it's going to be a little more widespread as some of that lighter snow, a little steadier but fairly light in nature snow tomorrow morning. And then as we get into the afternoon, we've been noticing something pretty interesting over about the last day or so is some of these bands starting to set up, and notice the orientation of them going from about north to south. That's what direction they're trying to travel, but you kind of trace a lot of that back. It's kind of like the issue we talk about with flooding, where some of this kind of trains over the same spot. That's where we're going to be picking up some of these locally heavier amounts of some of that snow, we think, as we get into tomorrow afternoon, and that's really going to reduce that visibility out there, so causing a lot of headaches as we get into the afternoon and evening hours on Friday. Some of that snow is still possible to kind of linger as we get into the early morning hours on Saturday. Most of whatever's adding up, though, is going to work its way off toward the east. This is the latest look at Snow Tracker, and again, I think it does a pretty good job at kind of highlighting the big picture idea. All of us should probably prepare for about an inch or so nothing terribly drastic, but you notice some localized areas picking up about 2 inches, maybe upwards of about 3, I think is now our ceiling that we could see in some very isolated areas. So that's what we're thinking in terms of snowfall amounts right now. What's complicating matters, though, I mentioned the visibility is going to be an issue. It's because these winds aren't going anywhere. You think about that wind-driven snow, again, kind of leads to some near whiteout conditions. I think that's what we could be looking at, especially as we get into tomorrow afternoon. Again, today, those wind gusts up around 30 and 40 miles an hour, certainly not helping matters, but it's almost just kind of setting the table. It's tomorrow afternoon still kind of hanging on to some of those wind gusts up around 30 miles an hour. So that's where the problem's going to be occurring out on some of those roadways. And again, this is a look at visibility tracker, again, fog tracker for what a lot of us like to use it for. But as we get into the early morning hours, that's when the snow starts settling back in. But notice that visibility is down around a mile. And then as we get into the afternoon hours, this is what we're a little more concerned about, is just how intense some of that snow may be coming down for a fairly short amount of time. But it could add up to a quick inch in a lot of some isolated locations here as we get into tomorrow. So we'll continue to track that going forward. Traffic tracker, though, this kind of paints the idea. Tomorrow night into the overnight hours, I think, are probably going to be where we struggle out on some of those roads. Early on in the day tomorrow, when it's coming down a little bit more steady but a little lighter, I'm not necessarily concerned. We may see a few slushy spots tomorrow morning, but by Saturday morning, with those overnight lows back into the 20s, could see a little bit of refreezing. So we got a lot of things to track here as we get into about the next day or two across mid-Missouri. Looking at that ABC 17 Storm Track 7-day forecast, things finally settle down into this weekend, but not going to be warming up a whole lot. We're stuck around the freezing mark on Saturday.